This is COMS 101, Persuasive Speech, and these are my audience members. Alright, so, have any of you ever been drunk or high before? Well, if you have, you've probably noticed, or not noticed, the effects that drugs and alcohol have on your brain, or how your brain does not function while you're on them. I'm sure that many of you have had or known friends that have had a drug and alcohol addiction problem. I know in my life I've had friends and even myself for a period of time that were affected by drug and alcohol addiction. This is what I want to talk to you about today, because drug and alcohol addiction is a large problem in America. Its effects can be life and health issues, and it demotes those things which God values, but it can be fixed by godly parenting and Christ-centered recovery centers. So I must expound on those points. Well, first of all, how do we know that drug and alcohol addiction is such a large problem in the U.S.? Well, here's some statistics for you. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, approximately 18.4% of Americans aged 18 to 24 have some sort of alcohol or drug dependency problem. In addition to that, according to the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence, 17.6 million Americans suffer from alcohol-dependent related situations. In addition to that, 20% of Americans are involved in some sort of drug abuse. So we can see there that it is, in fact, a large problem. And that can be summarized by a shocking statement from the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, which states, "The average age of the first marijuana use is 14, and alcohol use can start before the age of 12. The use of marijuana and alcohol in high school has become common." Well, when things become common, so do their consequences. And their consequences drag down each member of the society until they drag down the society as a whole. Drug and alcohol addiction brings about life and health issues and demotes those things which God values. And according to Psalms 127 through 128 and Titus 1, 7 through 9, God values family and He also values self-control. And these are two things which drug and alcohol addiction tear down, which I myself have seen in this country in my own life. According to the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence, we can see that addiction is defined as a primary complex brain disorder which is characterized by compulsive drug seeking and use despite harmful consequences, and by long-lasting chemical changes in the brain which interfere with a person's ability to think clearly, exercise good judgment, control behavior, and feel normal without using drugs. When somebody's dependent on something, when somebody's that dependent on something, it becomes something they worship. It is an idol in their life. And when drug and alcohol dependence comes about in somebody's life, it becomes an idol to them. So, this being said, how can we fix this? How can we as Christians go about fixing this problem in America? Well, drug and alcohol addiction can be fixed, but only fully by the healing of Jesus Christ, as we know. But this can be shown in form of godly parenting and prevention, and also through the form of Christ-centered recovery centers. And I'll now read a verse that actually applies to this. Titus 2, 11 through 12 says that, "For the grace of God has appeared that offers salvation to all people." It says, it teaches us to say no to ungodliness and worldly passions, and to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives in this present age. So we can see ourselves that healing starts with the gospel of Jesus Christ. And it continues. He orders us to do things according to Proverbs 13:24, which says, "Whoever spares the rod hates their children, but the one who loves their children is careful to discipline them." So we can see there that God values family. He values godly parenting. He values discipline. This is something that we must implement in our future children if we are to have families, to prevent drug and alcohol addiction and other sins that go along with it. There are also great recovery centers. One of them that's very Christ-based is Celebrate Recovery, and here's a quote that explains what they're all about. Celebrate Recovery is a biblical and balanced program that helps us overcome our hurts, hang-ups, and habits. It is based on the actual words of Jesus rather than the psychological theory. This is more of what we need. We need more parenting and less psychological theory. So what have we learned? Obviously, drug and alcohol addiction is a problem in America. It tears down lives in health and life, and it can only be fixed through Christ. And this can take form through godly parenting and Christ-centered recovery centers. So, what are we to do about it here? Well, when we have our future families, if we were to do so, then we can raise our children in God-centered families. We can help those that are in need, and we can share the gospel with those that are reaching out in healing with drug and alcohol addiction and abuse. So, will we just stand by through all of this? Will we just watch our children grow up in a culture that is saturated with drugs and alcohol and addiction? Or will we stand up and will we make a difference in that? Thank you for your time.